Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is the C block or final section of our weekly Cannabis Coast to Coast News show. I'm Alaina Pinto. Final reminder this week to scan the QR code on the screen to take you directly to the App Store or Google Play, where you can download our free app, PCM TV, and make sure you put a space in there if you're searching for it. First up in the C block, we check in on California, where it seems every week there's another social consumption lounge opening up, and that's where we find Dina Nagib.
I'm Dina Nagib, Principal Consultant at Grass Goddess Consulting, here to give you the latest news in Southern California for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This past week, I had the pleasure of touring the new consumption lounge, Sessions by the Bay, which will be the first in San Diego, opening this coming 4/20 weekend. Along with other leaders of the San Diego chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, we toured the dispensary that opened that morning and the lounge, which will be opening this week. One of the owners and main mastermind, Xavier, talked to us about his and his wife's vision and how important it is to bring this space to San Diego where people can consume safely and local artists, musicians, and cannabis cultivars can be featured. Stephanie Diaz, assistant lounge manager, was kind enough to chat with me about the lounge after the tour.
How are you doing today, Stephanie?
I'm good. I'm super excited to get everybody in here and show them what we're about. We've just soft opened the retail today about a couple hours ago, and it's been packed. So I can't wait to soft open the lounge and get the lounge cranking and everybody in there enjoying themselves.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. So you all were gracious enough to invite us, the leadership from the San Diego chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, to have a tour today. We got to see the dispensary open, which you mentioned, which is really cool, but we got to see the lounge, which isn't quite open yet, and also the immersive experiences.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Do you want to talk a bit about it? Yeah.
I can't say too much, but I can say that it's a 12-room immersive art exhibit. Will feature a progression of cannabis throughout its years, but also tells a really fun and awesome, unique story that the owners have kind of created up. So yeah, I'm excited to get everybody in there. We'll definitely be hopefully open by summer, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. It's got a lot of work in there, but our artists are in there cranking it out, and so we had to. Hopefully, everybody can experience that soon.
Hope to see everyone at Sessions by the Bay for a sesh soon. I'm Dina Nagib at Grass Goddess Consulting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Last week, Kimmie Cannabis had the story that her state of Oklahoma was preparing to collect signatures to get an adult use bill on the ballot for their next general election. Let's see what Kimmie has in store for this week.
I am Kimmie Cannabis with Can I Talk About It with the Oklahoma Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. As 4/20 approaches, the Sooner State is lighting up with cannabis celebrations from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, and we've got your early scoop on all the action. First up, Tulsa gets the party started with Terps and Tunes, the Terp Float launch party and 4/20 celebration. This event kicks off Friday, April 19th at 7 p.m. at the Shrine. It's free to attend for all adults 21 and up and features live musical performances. Now here's the perk. Attending this event gives you first access to VIP tickets and accommodations for the Big Terp Float weekend happening August 1st through the 3rd. Also in Tulsa earlier in the day on April 19th, it's Women in Weed, a 4/20 Eve celebration happening on Greenwood from 1:11 p.m. till 4:20. This inclusive event features a scavenger hunt and the official launch of Dr. Regina Nelson's new book. It's free, it's educational, and it's open to everyone. A great way to connect, learn, and celebrate women in weed. Now shifting gears to Oklahoma City, Dana's Green Depot is rolling out the green carpet on 4/20 itself. Doors open at 9 a.m. and the party doesn't stop until 8 p.m. Shoppers can score 20% off all day long, plus brand pop-ups and quarter-ounce giveaways happening all through the day. And finally, a major shout-out to Holiday Cannabis. They'll be popping up at 15 dispensaries across the state from April 17th through the 19th. Be on the lookout for their exclusive discounts at participating locations, including one of my personal favorites, Great Barrier Reefer in Bethany. So whether you're In it for the music, the medicine, or the munchies, Oklahoma's 420 scene has something for everyone. That's it for the Oklahoma Cannabis Report. Peace, love, and all that good stuff.
This is Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Pam Chmiel reporting from New York. New York's lack of a track and trace system is catching up with them at the expense of farmers and small businesses. It's been 2 years since New York launched the recreational program, and they have yet to implement a track and trace system that is leading to significant issues within the industry. The absence has allowed out-of-state brands to sell to the hundreds of storefronts, illegal storefronts known as smoke shops. The state's Office of Cannabis Management has named BioTrack as its tracking software provider over 2 years ago. However, multiple deadlines for integrating this system have been missed, with full implementation now projected for the growing season in 2025. This delay has left growers, particularly small-scale growers, struggling to compete with the illicit products. In response to mounting concerns, the OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management, has initiated investigations into several major cannabis brands, including California-based Stisley, for potential involvement in supplying the illegal shops around New York City. Now, if the OCM had their finger on the pulse or even peeked into a smoke shop, they would have seen Stisley products front and center. It was shocking news in December when we reported it here that the OCM announced Stisley was awarded a brand license for New York, given its illegal activities and lawsuits that have plagued the brand in the past. The agency responded to complaints by adding another layer of bureaucracy and established the Trade Practices Bureau just a few months ago to address these issues and enforce complaints within the industry. Within the first month, the TPB began investigating 15 to 25 complaints. Director James Rogers emphasized that the state's progressive regulatory framework is only as strong as its enforcement. And the TPB, the Trade Practice Bureau, aims to ensure that the small businesses and social equity licensees aren't undercut by bad actors. That's this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Pam Chmiel reporting from New York.
Well, now let's check in with Tina Tasaka in Nevada and with the tribal nations.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada and Tribal Nations Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Wallflower Dispensary is celebrating store number 2. Located in Henderson on Volunteer Boulevard, this nascent dispensary has overcome initial city council resistance to opening its doors, aiming to bring innovation and convenience to the local market. The store features advanced technology lockers, allowing customers to securely and conveniently make purchases. If they place an order online, they can come into the location, their ID is verified, and the order is now accessible via the locker, and patrons are swiftly out the door. While the dispensary initially sought to operate 24 hours a day, it faced regulatory hurdles that limited its hours. Additionally, the dispensary is strategically located near the upcoming Stations Casino, positioning it to benefit from increased foot traffic once the casino opens. If you're headed to MJ Unpacked this May, check out attorney Mitchell Chargo of Henshaw and Culbertson. He will moderate a panel, and in his session, Sovereign Opportunity, it will highlight how tribal nations are using their sovereignty to innovate and expand in the cannabis industry, potentially setting new standards and enabling interstate commerce. Mitchell also serves on the board of the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, ICIA. That's it for the Nevada highlights and tribal nations. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
There's an amazing story out of Colorado this week that involves a 600-pound cannabis bust. The twist here is that it sounds like it was an inside sting because it involves some law enforcement personnel. Here's Xavier Jailet with that story.
I'm Xavier Jage, chair of the Colorado chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce and a non-attorney professional with the McDonald Hopkins law firm. And here's what's happening in Colorado cannabis news this week. Now, this week's headline reads a bit like one that you would have expected to find prior to the existence or creation of Colorado's marijuana industry, and that is that 600 pounds approximately of cannabis was stolen from a Colorado State Patrol evidence trailer on April 1st, late in the evening. Colorado State troopers had seized the marijuana as part of an ongoing investigation regarding highway drug transfers across the Colorado and into other states, and had been holding the evidence of the marijuana in the locker for some time before thieves apparently entered the evidence lot and acquired the cannabis from the trailer late in the evening on April 1st. It's a reminder that marijuana is still very much a targeted product when it comes to criminal elements, and reminds me of some of the strings of crime, theft, and robberies that we've seen afflict and impact cannabis retailers across the United States and in Colorado. Now, Colorado State Patrol has issued some information regarding who they believe may be responsible for the theft, including details on the vehicles used, and they are requesting additional information from the public, from anyone who may know more about this story. That's it for the Colorado Cannabis News Report this week, and I'm Xavier Jailet reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Let's talk about what's going on in this country right now with the tariffs. We all know we have a new administration in place. I don't want to get this into a political discussion. However, the silence is deafening from Washington, D.C. about any of the progress that was made over the last administration here. And now the tariffs that are in place are impacting an industry that's already on the verge of collapse. How difficult is it to be in the cannabis space these days?
Well, I was actually listening to Fareed Zakaria this morning, and his kind of, does his weekly take, and he said that, with tariffs, this is basically setting up for the largest amount of corruption ever in the history of our government. And, once you start imposing these tariffs, large corporations and governments line up to pay homage to the then person in power to cut special deals. And, that's what we're seeing right now, unfortunately. And I've been pretty outspoken in my political opinions, but I'll refrain from them here. It's the good, there's good, bad, right? I mean, listen, all of the weed in our country that is in the legal cannabis market is grown domestically. So we don't have a tariff issue there. What obviously this affects, and where you're seeing a lot of pressure, is in the packaging companies and in the hardware companies that are making any type of vape products. A lot of that stuff originates out of China. Mm-hmm. Most of it was developed for e-cigarettes, as we know, and has been modified since to handle a more viscous liquid known as cannabis concentrate. So I don't know. I don't know if the tariffs are necessarily going to impact the cannabis industry directly, other than those two really kind of specific suppliers, of course. But as the economy tanks, cannabis is kind of in that kind of alcohol-like, recession-proof position where when times are good, people want to celebrate. When times are bad, people want to drown their sorrows. So, cannabis could actually benefit from a down economy. Unfortunately, I'd hate to see it, but, as things get tougher and tighter out there in the real world, and as the working class continues to get bled and grifted out of, the money that they hope to have gained from this new administration. I think people are going to be looking for alternative methods to relax and take the stress off. And cannabis is still growing. It's still a growth industry. It is capital starved, but it is a growth industry. So as soon as we start putting that water on the plants, the money in the industry will start seeing growth again.
Let's talk about MJ Unpacked in Atlantic City. I'll tell you, I was at your first one in Vegas. I was at your second one in New York. Okay. So this will be my return. But in between, you guys seem to be in a lot of different places now.
Sure. The original intent for building out MJ Unpacked and again, having built MJ BizCon and I saw what it became and how much they lost control of their audience. I mean, everybody in the industry kind of knows that all the decision makers, they might go there as kind of a placeholder on their calendar, but they're not actually attending the show. There's really not a value proposition for them to go. And it's just become overwhelming and kind of a big boondoggle in a lot of cases. We saw a need really just to create an event that we believe that cannabis is going to become a consumer packaged goods industry, and that the end game for the trade show space is going to look a lot more like the Natural Products Expo or the Fancy Food Show, consumer electronics. I mean, where brands are really the predominant exhibiting group on the floor. Now we're building a national consumer packaged goods style show without a national market. So, it certainly, caused some constraints. But kind of the genesis of kind of our movements around the country, we started the show. We got funded right before the pandemic. We were going to run a series of state focused events because that's where the market lives. But coming out of the pandemic, we said, listen, let's just push this to a national platform right away. We did our first one in Las Vegas during MJ BizCon because we wanted to show how disruptive and different the model could be. And people walked out of there with their kind of hair blown back. We felt that, putting our event in the East Coast where most of the market growth was going to be really important for us. We wanted to kind of build a spring, fall, east, west type of model. And New York was great. The market stalled on being able to roll out effectively, all the history and the problems there. Midtown Manhattan is not a cheap place to do an event. And we wanted to stay on the East Coast. So we did move our spring show to Atlantic City last year. It was incredibly successful. This year is going to be over the top. We're planning on staying there for the foreseeable future, at least on the East Coast in that area. But our fall show in Las Vegas, after we came back a second year, we just saw this kind of implosion of the West Coast market. I mean, California is obviously the dominant, driver of the West Coast market. And it just, herbal was shutting down. People were getting stuck, not of their fault, but retailers weren't paying their bills, so the brands didn't get their money, and this caused a lot of collateral damage out on the West Coast. And Washington remains a pretty kind of closed market with a lot of caps on scale of how many operations somebody can own. And we kind of looked around and we looked at markets that had a very large amount of license holders. Because those represent potential attendees to our event or exhibitors at our event. So, a state like Illinois, where, 4 or 5 companies own 80% of the market's not going to, be good for our event per se to really draw attendance. So we went to Michigan, we went to Detroit. It was a great show. It was our smallest show because we kind of spun it up late notice. And there's a couple other events that were in Michigan at the time. But Michigan's booming, and it was always kind of a flyover state. You saw at one point it was bigger than California's market. I think it's since receded. And then we looked at, other states that we could bring our fall show, and we looked at Missouri, and it's like, this is definitely a state that people have flown over and really missed the mark. And you look at the sales growth, you look at the diversity of license holders. I mean, it is a little bit verticalized. I love verticalization from an operational efficiency standpoint, but I think that bifurcating the market at some point between, product and retail is going to make sense. But Missouri's a great market, and, it's kind of hitting a lot of emerging states. I mean, hopefully we'll see Kansas, Nebraska at some point kind of get in line, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas. You got a lot of states there. It's bordering Illinois. Ohio's a short flight. So we like Missouri, and we've moved around, and we're going to continue to do our events in 2025. We're going to be in Missouri this year. Next year, we're planning on being in Missouri again. We'll probably be in Kansas City because of the World Cup.
How about a quick plug? When is the Atlantic City show?
Yeah, and I want to tell you, so we've continued to evolve the show, right? Like part of our strategy is meet the market where it's at, right?
Okay.
And also, kind of lead it to where it needs to go. So we're making some big changes to our event this spring in Atlantic City. It's April 29th to May 1st. It's at the Hard Rock Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. You're gonna have to fly into Philadelphia and get a car down to Atlantic City. If you book on American and your flight shows you landing in Philly and getting to Atlantic City, it's actually a bus you load up on the tarmac, so don't get fooled by that. So the one thing that we're doing first is we're kind of balancing our conference program. We usually, in the past, we've kind of done a full day of programming day one, a half day, day two, and none on day three, kind of figuring people want to move to the exhibit hall floor. But we're doing a half day in the afternoon on day one, morning. So it's kind of more balanced for the conference program. The last day, we're actually opening the event up to bud tenders and staff at licensed operators. As you know, you have to be a licensed operator with the title of manager or higher to attend MJ Unpacked, or an accredited investor actively investing in the space, or a research scientist doing something meaningful in cannabis. And that's to kind of create a very curated, elevated audience. So last day, we want to bring those bud tenders in. This is a huge opportunity for brands to engage with the bud tenders, which they love doing. It's an opportunity for the bud tenders to come, learn more about those brands and also the products and technology that's driving the industry forward. These are the future managers and possibly entrepreneurs in our industry. So that last day when we're bringing the bud tenders in with the bud tender pass, we're also having an industry night and MJU Cannabis Cup. It's our first Cannabis Cup. We had over 120 entries to the cup. Some really amazing products being entered. We partnered with Green Flower Media to have level 2 ganjiers evaluate all the cannabis. They've got their SAP app, which is a standardized methodology for testing and tasting and evaluating concentrates and flower. They developed one specifically for digestibles, so we could add those gummies and those chocolate bars and those beverages in there too. So we're super excited about that. Going to be a full kind of Oscars type moment. We're going to have all the winners sealed in envelopes and announce them live at the industry night event. And we're going to have our signature open or official after party. We're partnering with Fairchild Events. They're really the de facto largest cannabis kind of event producer in the country at this point, from a kind of a consumer or kind of festival standpoint. And James Zahodny over there, the CEO, and I had a chance to work together at Dope Magazine. And he's brilliant. He's a really, really good event producer. So he always brings some really fun, engaging kind of experiential types things. So we're doing our official after party at the Steel Pier. We're going to have the Ferris wheel. We're going to have the big bungee sling thing where people can really get high. And we're going to have some carnival games. We're going to have some food. We're going to have some activations. It's going to be consumption friendly. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
5 hours, 23 minutes. I'll be driving down. I've already done the map, Right. So I look forward to that.
And finally tonight, did you know that 420 this year falls on Easter Sunday? Needless to say, that will either help or hurt the sales of cannabis on that day, since it's always one of the biggest days of the year for sales of cannabis all over the country. And I'm sure the day before will be just as busy for many in the market. And in a sign of normalcy coming to 420, some fast food restaurants are featuring 420 specials. Jimmy John's has the THC box. It's not infused food, all right, but it is the toasted hot combo, THC. Get it? White Castle has the Crave Clutch. That's a unique container for 20 sliders, 20 of them. There are many others too who are jumping on the bandwagon of cannabis as more and more mainstream businesses embrace legal cannabis. After all, half of the states in America now sell and allow adult use sales. 420 is ready to go mainstream, and so are we. That will do it for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Alaina Pinto. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
Debbie Fazy with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Alaina Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast, PCM TV's weekly roundup of industry news from California to New York. I'm Alaina Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCM TV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.